G'day guys, my name's Alex, I'm a sports physio. Let me show you some really easy ways to exercise with lower back pain right now. I've seen a lot of people that say they get back pain when they pick things up too much. So this might be at work, this might be picking the kids up at home, this might be having to do chores around the house. And it's not that one lift is hard or hurts, but after a while they start to get sore. A great way to reduce your pain is to improve your ability to do the task through strengthening exercises that match this movement that is painful. So we're doing a hinge exercise, which might be considered a deadlift, and you might be thinking also, well, I'm told I should squat when I pick things up. And look, definitely there's some reasons and situations where you would squat to pick things up. However, a lot of the time when picking up the kids, when picking up groceries, we're just going to hinge, and that's just going to be the way it's going to be. And I think we can build robustness in this movement. That movement, there's nothing wrong with it. We can do that movement. So we're going to find a weight that's comfortable. We're going to find a height that we can reach down to, and we're going to pick a number of repetitions that is manageable. That is what I call an entry point, and finding that entry point is the trick. It's not finding a different exercise. It's not going and getting a massage. It's what's your entry point that will allow you to exercise in a way that'll help you comfortably. If you think, no, what I did was too much, I got sore, it means your entry point was too high. We've just got to regress and go less weight or less range or less reps. So we just find that height. I'm using the orange box in this part of the video. I'm hinging through my hips and using my knees. I will stress that this is the way we would pick something up if it is heavy, if we think it is going to be a little bit challenging. It's a very efficient way to keep our back fairly straight. I'm not overarching my back. I'm just bending through my hips, using my knees, going to the floor and picking things up. This is not the way to pick up everything. It would be silly for us to pick up everything this way. We'd be like a robot. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you other ways that we can strengthen our back. Now, if you were thinking, hey, that first exercise was a bit too hard, well, here's a regression for you. It's an easier way to do it. Sitting on a chair or a bench, just cross your arms, cross your chest and hinge forward. That way, when you come up, you're just pushing up against your own body weight against gravity. It's quite easy to do, especially if you're someone who is just coming back from a bit of a flare-up. This is a great way to get back into some exercise. We can add a little bit of weight there. I've just popped 10 kilos across my chest. You could pop 1 kilo. It doesn't really matter, guys. Just increase the weight slowly, and this will increase your ability to tolerate doing this movement. Once you feel comfortable, you can go back to that first exercise and do the standing variation, where we just go down to a high height. Now, we can make this harder by coming to the edge of a chair or bench, and we can increase our range of motion by leaning that little bit further forward. So I really like this one for people that are a bit apprehensive about strengthening their back or using their back in a way which they perceive to be, dangerous, essentially. And, if you've had a lot of pain, it makes sense that you perceive it as being dangerous, but our goal is to make it feel comfortable, to show your brain that, hey, I can do this movement. I can strengthen my back. Now, before we get to the next type of exercise, we need to talk about moving our hips and moving our lumbar spine. You're not going to pick up a pencil the same way that you're going to pick up 100 kilos. You're not going to pick up the kids the same way you're going to pick up groceries. Or at least I hope not. So we're going to go through some pelvic tilting. Now you might think, well, that's a bit strange, but it's a great way to get your lumbar spine and your hips moving in a different sort of way. So the first exercise was to hinge, to get your back moving straight. So in a locked out position, which we said was, this is really good for picking up heavy things because it keeps us nice and stiff and safe. Well, there's plenty of things that we have to pick up that we don't need to stiffen our back for. We need to tilt our pelvis. So this is rolling our hips back, tucking our tailbone underneath us, and getting flexion of our spine or bending of our spine. To start thinking about sitting up as straight as you can. Now, not to the point that you hurt yourself, but this is your starting point. So as straight as you can, and then roll or slump down. So think slump. Let your lower back bend, guys. It's okay to let it bend. Once we let it bend, we then want to roll forward and flex as much as we can. We can go to our knees, go to the floor. It doesn't really matter. When we come back up, we want to roll back up. Don't hinge and arch back up. I explain this in a lot more detail in one of my other videos that'll be in a title card in the upper right hand of your screen right now. So, as I said before, we need to pick things up in different ways and we need to strengthen our back in different ways. Now, you don't have to do it as much as I'm doing here. You can have some slightly bent knees, but this sort of J curl, it's called a Jefferson curl, is a great way to do some strengthening of your back. Now, you might be thinking, this guy's crazy. However, you could do it with 1 kilo, you could do it with no kilos, but just practicing slowly bending forward, curling your spine, getting nice flexion motion or back bending occurring, and then coming back up. We could start with just body weight reps. This is safe. This can be safe. It should be safe. We can work up to this to make this safe. And we just do it progressively. If you can't do this, we can just go back on the bench and start doing weighted curls from the floor while sitting. Once we can do that, we can do it in standing body weight. We can then start adding weight. We just have to find that entry point, guys, for all these different exercises. It's really important that we get strong and proficient at moving in all these different ways, because as I said, you're not going to pick up a pencil off the floor or your keys off the floor the same way that you're going to pick up 100 kilos. So we need to develop competency or the ability to do these things. Now, I know some people will want some trunk or quote-unquote core exercises. By performing this side bridge or side plank, we can hold a nice strong position that's going to strengthen our hips, strengthen our trunk muscles without having to do a lot of sit-ups. Another one that you've probably seen around the traps before is this 4-point kneel position. So we just get into all fours. We can raise one arm up, one leg back. The idea is that we keep our trunk fairly still, but we're not over bracing or tightening up and squeezing our abs to the point that, accidents may happen. So we can perform by just moving one limb by itself. So that could be one arm out, one leg out. And then once we feel comfortable, we can do opposing limbs. So right arm, left leg, or left leg and right arm. And they extend out. We pause momentarily and come back in. It's just a great way of you having to move your body in a controlled fashion against a resistance, which in this case is obviously gravity. And number 3 is doing a bridge. We just tuck our pelvis underneath us, make sure there's no arch in your back, lifting all the way to the top. Don't go so far that you have to arch your back to go further. This just works your trunk, works your glutes. Great little exercise to do. So next I like to add in some movement exercises just to get those muscles and get those joints moving again in, once again, a safe, non-provocative way that you can actually achieve some movement that's going to help you feel better. A lot of the time the body's just super guarded. We're waiting for things to go wrong, and so showing the body that it can do things that won't hurt it, that's not provocative, is great. So some of these exercises as seen here is what I like to give a lot of different patients. It's just about moving at a pace that's comfortable, doing the exercises that you feel are comfortable to get your back moving again. Not all of these will be appropriate for everyone, but just have a look at some variations in this part of the video. I've also got a full lower back morning routine that I've just tagged in the upper right hand corner of your screen now, so check that out. So here are just some exercises that you can try to do to improve that mobility. So rotations are great. So this is a lower back stretch that I give to just about most of my back pain patients. It's great because rotation is a very non-provocative movement for a lot of different types of back injuries. So we just set up on our side. We have one arm go out as far as we can. We let one leg underneath us go down, and then we pop the top leg over, and then we rotate back with that top shoulder. Just follow the video. It's probably a bit easier than listening to me with that one, but it's a great exercise. You should feel a stretch in your lower back just above your glutes. And we can obviously do that on both sides, and rocking is a great one as well. This is just about getting your pelvis, getting your hips moving, because when we get sore, we tend to see patients get really locked up with their backs and locked up with their hips. And this is just the guarding of the body. It's just ready for things to go wrong, and we need to show it that it's not going to go wrong, that you can do these movements, it's not going to hurt. And the way we do that is we find that entry point. What is that entry point? Is it modifying the exercise to a way that helps? Is it finding a stretch that allows you to do a movement that you can't do in another way? It's just about finding that entry point, guys. So this one's about getting our hips moving. It's an easy one, but I could be lying down flat on my back and bringing my leg up. It doesn't matter which way you do it, as long as you're getting some form of hip movement. We can obviously make it harder and go into a pigeon pose. This is a great one as well, but not everyone can get into this position. So It's just about modifying, find that entry point, find that ability to do this exercise in a way which is not provocative. Back arching and back extensions are a great way to get some movement in your back, especially if one, you find this really pain relieving position, and two, it's important later on down the road when you're feeling a bit better if this was originally the movement that hurt a lot, because you can't live your life without extending your back. If you've got to reach up for things, you have to be able to move your back. So find a position that's comfortable. You can go wider with your hands, which will mean that you're not going up as high. You can bring your hands in towards you and back towards you. This will mean you have to arch up further. Now, more arch is not more better, to use poor English. We want it to be comfortable. We want it to be appropriate. Some people just don't have great range of motion in their back, so they're not going to be getting into these positions that I'm in here. However, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be just trying to maximize the amount of movement that you've got, okay? So the hips should stay flat. The motion should be coming from the middle of our back and our lower back. We don't want it to just be coming from our lower back, okay? We can then get up into a nice big catch stretch, and then turn it back into our extension exercise. Just get that movement back, guys. Try to, incorporate fluid motions to doing these stretches. We can come back into that stretch. I think it's called a prayer stretch. Open our hips up, get ourselves flexing forward. I always like to finish in this position, as flexing for the most part is quite comfortable. We need to do it, and we can just go in and out between flexion and extension, but I tend to always finish in some form of flexing or flex position. I think that's a theme used in yoga, but I've always found that it works well with patients. So guys, this video is just about showing you that you can find a way to exercise your back safely, but also I want you to think about, we don't want to just find that one way that's pain-free to pick something up and that's all we do, because that eventually will lead to problems down the line. We need multiple strategies to pick things up. As I said, you won't pick up the kids the same way you pick up the groceries, or at least, once again, I hope you don't. And if we're picking up a pencil or picking up 100 kilos, we should have two different strategies to pick it up. If it's a pencil, you should be able to curve your back and pick it up. If it's something heavy, yeah, we want to hinge at our hips and use our back muscles and be a bit tighter and a bit more robust to do it. But we just want to make sure that we don't use that tight strategy for the pencil, because that compression around our back is just going to be a bit discomforting after a while. We can apply compression, that's fine, but if that's a repeated strategy that we use all the time, that's not ideal either. Like I said, guys, there's other videos that I bring out. I like to talk about this sort of thing. If you felt like you've learned something today, please like the video and then consider subscribing, because I bring out stuff all the time, and so you don't miss out, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Okay guys, I'll chat to you later. Bye.